Hey everyone, my name's Kelvin, and I'm going to show you how you can use Mandala Creator with Adobe Illustrator to make a mandala just like this one. Now, Mandala Creator works with CS5, CS6, and Creative Cloud, but I'm going to demonstrate it with CS6 because for some reason my cam screen recording software, it doesn't work with CS5. There's some weird glitches going on. So the demo's in CS6, but this software does work with CS5. So once you launch Illustrator, go to File and then Open, and then navigate to wherever it was that you unzipped that folder from Creative Market. And here's what you'll see inside. That's the README with some instructions and the links to this video and others. This is the template. And then these are two sets of scripts. It's basically, depending on which kind of mandala you want, a 6-pointed one or an 8-pointed one, you'd load one of these. But the first thing you'll do here is just open this one. And there we go. Let's center it on the artboard. And all it is, it's two layers. The background layer has this kind of checkerboard look. You can actually delete that layer if you don't like this. But I think sometimes it shows how the different rings of the mandala layer and what's transparent and what's not transparent. So here we go. You want to load the actions. So this is where you want to decide what kind of mandala you want to make. So in this demo, I'm going to show you how to make an 8-pointed one. In the previous demos, I've done the 6-pointed one. So we'll go to Window, Actions, and then if you see any actions here, you want to go to the little menu, and you'll want to clear those actions, just like that. And then that'll make it look blank like this, and then we'll load some actions. So we'll go back to that folder we unzipped from Creative Market, and these are the two scripts, the 6-pointed one and the 8-pointed one. I'm going to use the 8-pointed one. So if you happen to open those scripts and it looks like this, which is super boring, you'll want to turn on button mode. So Start New Mandala, 8-sided, just does this. It creates a nice new little ring there with 8 instances of the patterns. So these patterns, these come from the brushes that are stored in this document. So to see those brushes, we'll go to Window, Brushes, and there you can see them all. In this case, there's 101. So these are all the brushes that come with it. And there's a couple more scripts than the previous version had, but I'm going to go through and explain them all. So Start New Mandala just creates a new center. None of these scripts will work unless the new center is selected, right? So if it's not selected and you click another script, it's going to fail, okay? So make sure that the mandala center is always selected. And the selection will move as you create your mandala. So duplicate ring, what that's going to do is make a copy of the ring you already have, put it behind, and make it a little bit bigger so you can see it, so it's not occluded by the one in front. So you can grow it, you can shrink it, these scripts will work later on in the mandala. These let you bring rings forward a step or backwards a step. So I'll demonstrate that here. Let's duplicate a few more. So the ring that's selected is all the way in the back. I can bring it forward. I can step it through the mandala. We can send it back too, just like this. And all it's doing is, because the mandala, this ring has a white fill, okay, it's just covering up the other ones. They're still there, okay, it's just layered in there like a book. Okay, let's start over. Now we'll start a new mandala just like this, and we can duplicate the ring, grow it, shrink it, move it around through the layers of the mandala, and we can rotate it as well, okay? So this is something that's also different about the 8-sided mandala, is it takes a different degree of rotation. We can rotate it like that. This rotates it a little bit less, a little bit of a finer degree of rotation, and that matters if you shrink the pattern. So what shrink pattern does is it duplicates, it doubles the instances of this pattern. So in this case, there's 8. Let's delete the first one so you can see it. So we have 8 instances of this pattern. And you could have selected any pattern in here and it would show 8 instances of it. If you want to double it to 16, you'd click Shrink Pattern, and that multiplies it by 2. So now we have 16 instances of this pattern. If you want to bring it back, you would do Grow Pattern, just like that. And if you want to grow it more, you can do that and have 4. But for most mandalas, that won't be too useful, except sometimes in the center of the mandala, like the very first ring, it might look cool to do this kind of 4-sided and then change to 8-sided and then change to the 16-sided. And you can go on and on forever. And that's why I have patterns that are very simple and patterns that are very complex. Because what you'll find is that very simple patterns may look kind of too simple when they're only 4, 8 instances or so. But when we shrink those, the detail increases, and these will look better on the very outside of the mandala. So let's start over here, new mandala. And I think that the center of a mandala looks pretty good with this one. And we'll grow the pattern so it looks more simple. Duplicate it. It's going to make a copy and put it behind. And then we'll select something like this one. So in this case, the ring it's been grown too big. So we'll shrink it 4 and then back to 8. Now it's starting to get covered up. So we'll grow it just like this. That's pretty nice. Duplicate it, we'll rotate it. And let's try a different pattern. Let's try something like Sure, this one's fine. So you'll find that the more you use this program, the better you'll get at making mandalas. The software makes it easy to show the patterns in the radial design, but I really recommend looking at mandala artwork, coloring books or something to get a kind of feel. I learned a lot about how to lay out mandalas that way, but I'm still not 100% an expert at it. So we'll grow that a little bit, duplicate it, select a different pattern. That one's fine. And I've included a couple different kinds of brushes in here that I've never had before. And I'll show you how to use those. So we'll duplicate it again, go all the way to the bottom. And this doesn't really have any fill, okay? It's just a black outline. And we'll shrink it, just like that. And then we'll put another design behind it. So duplicate it, and then we'll select one of these ones. And see it's being covered up a little bit, so we'll grow it. I think that's good. Duplicate it again, rotate it, shrink it so it covers up. Duplicate it again. Let's add something. How about this? Oh, this one. Duplicate. Okay, that's nice. I'm happy with this. Now I think that I want to add something to the center. In this case, it's better to start a new ring, and that'll put a new one right in the front, right on top. And let's do this basic line here. Shrink it. Okay, I'll add another layer on top. Select that again. There, so I've just added 2 more rings on top. Sort of break up that center a little bit. And once I'm happy with this, that's when I use the cleanup tools. That's these ones here. So these ones you got to be a little careful with, because it's possible to use them in a certain order that makes it impossible to go back. Like you won't be able to undo some of these changes. But I'll show you what to avoid. So once you're happy with this, use the cleanup lines tool. And that's going to select everything on the artboard, expand it, and give everything the same thickness of a line, so you don't have some pieces that are way thicker than other pieces. Now, what could possibly go wrong is if you clicked this button twice. If you click it twice, you're not going to be able to go back. So that can only happen by accident. You'll never need to do that. So once it's been kind of expanded and outlined, we can select it here, and we can make the stroke thicker, like this, or thinner with this one. Now this tool, thicker and thinner stroke, it's kind of foolproof, but it's not very, it doesn't have a very fine adjustment, and that's because if you want to change the stroke manually by using this tool up here, it's possible to make a mistake, and that would be to accidentally scroll to a 0-point stroke. And now we have no outline, it's just white. Now if I want to scroll it up again and give it an outline, some of the brushes won't work. See, you'll see this black line here? That's what happens when you accidentally go to a 0-point stroke and then back up. So you'll see there'll be some weird artifacts throughout the mandala, because what happens is each piece of the mandala has a different style. There's probably 2 or 3 different graphic styles in this mandala. And when you scroll it to 0 and scroll it up, it's clearing out all those styles. So if you accidentally do it and give it a 0-point stroke and have this kind of problem, you need to go back. And that's what this button is. That's the undo cleanup lines. So what that does is that's going to totally go back to the beginning, to just after you use the cleanup lines tool. So we're back to square one now, and those weird artifacts aren't showing up. So remember, if you want to use this to change the stroke, make sure it's always a positive number, 1 or higher. You could be a 5-point. Press enter. That's a 5-point. You could change it to a 1.3-point stroke like that. And you're fine. Just don't accidentally convert it to a 0-point stroke. And if you do want to use these, the reason they're not super fine because they're kind of exponential, right? So it'll get infinitely thin this way, and this will get infinitely thick. So it's like multiplying the previous thickness. So once you want, it would be hard to get just a little bit thicker than this, because when I make that thicker, it's twice as thick. So that's why you would want to use this control and have a little more finer control over that. Now, when you're all done with your mandala, all the designs that are overlapped, they exist behind it. So if you wanted to send this to a printer, they'd probably hate you forever. So if you want to do something with this mandala, other than just look at it in Illustrator, the best way to do that is to select your mandala after it's been all cleaned up, and you're happy with the stroke thickness, and you want to rasterize it. So we'll go to Object, Rasterize. You want it to be a high resolution. 300 ppi is fine. The background, I recommended transparent background. This will take a second. There. Now it's rasterized. It's basically like you've taken a picture now of the mandala. It's just an image. So all the designs that are covered up by the designs in front, those are all gone. It's just what's on the surface. Now, it's also pixels. So if you want to use this as a really great big design or whatever, you'll eventually see pixels. So we want to convert it back into vectors now. And the best way that I found to do that is with image trace. So once you've selected your rasterized mandala, you'll automatically have this option on top, this image trace button. You can click it and it will probably work, but just make sure, just click the little arrow and make sure you image trace it with the default option, and that'll take just a second. There we go. So I really like the look of the tracing with the default settings, because it really it really smooths it out. Some of the rough edges where some of the parts come together, it just joins them together. It's really nice, and you can even see here it's filled it in where there were some really tiny white spaces. I think that looks awesome. Now you have basically 2 colors in this vector now, and we can expand it and you'll see the outlines here. Just click expand, and there we go. Now you can see it's all vector again, and you can scale it up or down to whatever you want, but it's 2 colors now. And for some people they want to have like a totally transparent background, so it's just a black line. So once it's been expanded, we can ungroup it, and now we have all these little pieces, right? So we want to separate the white from the black. So we'll actually, it's the easiest way is to get rid of the white first. So let's select the white, and we'll go to select, same, fill color, just like that. So what it's gone is it's gone through everything on this whole document and selected any color that was the same white that we had selected in the corner here, and we'll just clear that. There, now it's deleted. And now we've ungrouped it, so we don't want to move this around because these pieces, they can be separated. So we'll select the whole mandala again, and we'll go to Object, and we'll group it, just like that. So now we're back to just a black line now. And this would be ideal for making a logo, or if you were sending it to a vinyl cutter to get a wall decal made, this would be ideal. That's a pretty good walkthrough, I think, of Mandala Creator 7. I hope it helps you guys out. And if you have any questions, send me a message. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching.